Meanwhile, the United Nations inspection team is back in Europe, where chemical experts will start analyzing samples taken from the outskirts of Damascus. The UN Secretary-General has been closely monitoring the situation there. Let's go to CCTV's Nick Harper in New York for the latest on that. Nick?
Well, we found out today that the Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon has spoken to the head of the UN Chemical Weapons Inspection Team to try and ask him to speed up the testing process. He spoke to Dr. Ake Selstrom, who's currently in the Netherlands with the team and their samples that they took from the alleged chemical attack site from August the 21st. Now, while time is of the essence, the United Nations is asking for patience so that there's no doubt about the eventual test results.
Hi!
Relief to be away from a war zone. The UN Chemical Weapons Inspection Team are back in the Netherlands.
Good to see you.
And with them, their evidence.
Number 4, top 38323.
The boxes of samples they collected in Damascus are now being collated and prepared once again for transportation. Work that so far is said to be progressing well. From here, they'll be sent on to other European laboratories on Monday, where testing will begin. But that will take some time to complete.
We are not specifying a timeline. We're simply saying that it is being done as fast as it is possible to do within the scientific constraints.
At the United Nations in New York, a spokesperson said accuracy would not be jeopardized by a desire for quick answers.
The Secretary-General is obviously very keen, as is the rest of the international community, that this should be done as swiftly as possible, but you need to be able to adhere to the standards so that the scientific process of verification is credible.
Answering questions about President Obama's decision to involve Congress in the plans for military action, he suggested the Secretary-General was pleased.
I can tell you he regards it as one aspect of an effort to achieve a broad-based international consensus on measures in response to any use of chemical weapons.
With the collected samples going to laboratories in the coming hours, tests will finally be able to start to see if chemical weapons were used. But the final results won't be ready for several days and may even take up to 2 weeks. The United States say that they already have evidence that sarin gas was used in those Damascus suburbs. It'll be some time before we get the actual results of the UN test results, but it could strengthen the hand of President Obama for military intervention. We have to remember that the UN mandate was just to find out if chemical weapons were used, not by whom, but positive test results could help the president. It's just a question of whether those results will be back in time before Congress reconvenes on September the 9th.
Nick, President Obama has said he's willing to act without the UN's backing. And now, how is that being received in New York?
Well, once again today, we heard from the spokesperson for the Secretary-General. He said that while the president could act, it would be preferred if he were to listen to the Security Council at the United Nations. But the big problem with that is that they are still at loggerheads. You may remember that last week they met, the permanent 5 member states met, but they weren't able to reach any sort of agreement. The big problem being that Russia, the long-term ally of Bashar al-Assad, stands in opposition to any sort of military intervention. So it's unlikely that he'll get the backing, but the United Nations would prefer it if he did.
Thanks, Nick. Nick Harper there from New York.